we are going to finish. Okay. We are going to finish up today with our pet portrait. If you are painting your very own pet, you have already done exactly what we have done with Harley. You've already gotten over half finished with the underpainting like this one. The underpainting is very important. As we talked about last week, the underpainting establishes the values of the portrait. It establishes the values of the portrait. Whether that portrait is a pet or a person. We have also done our value scale here. We've done shades of brown for our pet. We've added white to the browns to make our tints of values, value 1, 2, 3, 4. If you were absent, make sure you get this value chart done after you sketch. Then we added just browns by itself, and then slowly started putting a little black into the browns, starting at about value 6 to make those shades darker. And we understood and analyzed what's the difference between tints and shades. Tints of a color is light, adding white. Shades of a color means I put my shades on, they're dark, adding black or dark color to another color to make shades. We've gotten as far as painting values 1, 2, 3. Got some threes there. I did feel like after it dried, my value 3s and 4s and 5s can be adjusted. And that's the fun part of this acrylic first layer is we can come in after it dries to assess what is too dark and what is too light. Because when we add color on it, we will substitute the color of the monochromatic color to a color that we're using. For example, this light value number, that value 1 and 2 can be whites and yellows because white and yellow is really light in value like this light brown. Number 3 right here could probably be a yellow orange. Okay, so we are going to substitute these browns for some color in our next session. So now I want to adjust something. Right here in Harley's ear, if you notice here on the reference, I got a little too dark. I want you to look at yours and see if you got too dark. I actually have right here a value 7, and I don't need that. I need a value 5. So I'm going to take my dark brown by itself and go over this dark section here and lighten it up. So if yours is too dark, I want you to lighten that up a little bit by putting that brown by itself on the top. And as you notice, the acrylic paints that we are using now are now dry. They're dry enough for us to be layering our colors. So here, let's start now finishing up on the values that your pet has. In these sections, I know that I need some value 4s and 5s. So right here in her ear, that is what I'm starting. And then I'm going to put those 5s in, and I'm matching the 5s with exactly what I see. So here's value 5. I'm laying that color over there. I'm matching it in. And this is the brown by itself. And we all learned how to do that already. So now let's proceed into adding these values in. If I need to make it lighter in a section, I'm going to take that specific value, and this one was value number 2, and apply it in. Our goal today is to finish up this whole portrait, your whole painted portrait with your values and the background. That's what we're doing today. All right? Today and probably even Thursday, we'll do that. My goal actually is to, on Friday, begin adding color. It just depends on how quickly we can get in these here values. All right, so don't take any downtime. Um, paint, paint, paint. Okay? What's up? It's a baby one though. All right. You're welcome. All right. You ready for your value chart? It's cardboard right over there where the power is. Yes, we're still gonna use brown and then we'll put black or darker brown and black on top of what we have. And I did talk about that as well. I'm gonna repeat that. If you have a pet that is mostly black, you will notice that that pet really still do have brown undertones. You just can't see them as much. So our goal is to put a lot of these browns, especially darker browns, in our on our pet, and then move those browns, lighter browns, into darker browns. All right. Oh, just pull one from underneath the pottery and just scratch somebody's name off. All right, sir, are you working? All right, no problem. And in that snout or nose area, I'm going to be mixing some of my darker browns with a little bit of black, creating the shape of her nose, reshaping it. And pay close attention to your shadow shapes. Remember that. Your shadow shapes form the shape of the object. And I do know my value 8 right here is a lot in her nose and her eyes. So I'm going to add some of those values in now while I got a chance. Okay, and then I'll add even more in there shortly. Then remember that you are switching over brushes as you need to. I'm not going to keep the medium brush in my hand at all times. I'm going to switch over and grab a smaller detail brush as I need it. So I did need it right now. That's why I was talking about it. And making sure that I really give those smaller sections some information, some shadow information as it needs. There she go. Now that nose is really coming to life because I put in the light, the medium, and the dark values. Her nose isn't just one value of brown. It has some different browns inside of it. I did try to email some of your parents the graded scale rubric to when you will receive a grade and what actually will be graded. So if your parent didn't get that, make sure you share with them that information or tell them to go to their email. It might be in their spam. And crazily, Harley has a frown on her face, but a smile line down here. So I'm going to make sure that I put that smile line because it really brings her to life a lot more. There we go. Right over there under the pottery, just move a piece of pottery out your way if you need to, okay? And you're probably going to have to take someone's name off of there and just put your name. Add in some values here around her face. If there is a value in your pet that is not on your chart, yes, you can add that on. Just because it's not on the chart doesn't mean that it can't be on there. So you can add it if you need to. Now I'm going to go around this section here slightly before I move into her eyes. I just needed to feel a little bit of this in, just a little more. Felt like I got too much lightness right there. There she goes. All right. Here, there, lighter brown here, and on this side. My goal is to fill in a lot where I have the pencil shading, all right, and fill that pencil shading in with this accurate value of brown. Now, when you get ready to do your independent study after the pet, these are the steps that you are going to be turning in to me. Your step one will be your sketch of telling me what you're going to do and the photo reference and even the color swatches, the underpainting swatch and the color swatch. You will. Grab a bigger brush. And then the next step after that will be adding these values on the underpainting, of course. And after the underpainting, we'll be adding color. As you notice now, there are actually steps to painting. I love this step the most. I don't know why I like this step the most, but I do. Make sure you're using the appropriate brush. You don't want to be painting with a small brush in large areas. You want your own medium brush. And you were supposed to get the brushes back in September. So everyone at this point should have your that was startling. Your set of brushes to actually use for painting class. Because as you notice, we don't have a class set of the brushes you would need. Right? Now for this recorded video, I'm not going to use this same recording for the next part after lunch. So I'll probably be posting, well, I know I'll be posting a separate link for you for the next part after lunch. So we'll paint for about, I think it's 30 minutes, and then we'll have another link. All of this information is provided for you in the slideshow presentation. So as you go to Google Classroom under Pet Portrait, you will find a slide presentation, and that's where I'm putting all videos and all other information instead of having it scattered around on Google Classroom. Everything can be in the same section. Oops, got too dark. I'm also going to do my very own independent study painting as well for the one after the pet. So don't feel like you're going to be left alone in class just painting. You're not. I'm painting with you. Saving all black to the end. As you notice, I have not used any black by itself. These colors might look really close to black, this number 8, because I mixed brown with the black. But I have not just yet added any black by itself. Even again, if you have a black pet, you're using shades of brown, darks to lights, especially values 5, 6, 7, and 8. Or you're making your own darker ones, okay? No one in here is just going to have a plain black animal. It's going to have some brown undertones underneath a lot of those values. Right? This is triangular shapes, lots of cone shapes around her face for the hairs. And a lot of your animals, hairlines are cone shapes. There she goes. I move my photo reference and my value chart over now so I can get a lot of these other details in. There we go. Shapes. Work with those shadow shapes. Do not blend your shapes too much. Some of you are very soft when you paint. That means that you're blending. And when you blend too much, you're taking away the shape of your object, your person, your thing. So I know that a couple of you do paint like that. So just remember, as you are painting your pet, try your best to leave some of these shadow shapes as hard edges. That means it's a hard line, it's a shape, and it's left alone, like I just did around the ball with this value number 8. Very important. There she goes. She's really shaping up now that I'm going into my 7s and my 8s. At this point, I'm establishing my light source as I go into the shades of browns, those darker ones, and I'm pushing those shadows, it's helping me now to see where the focal point is. And the focal point for Harley is the very light section right here in her body, right in that center. Now your focal point might be over to the right side on your pet, and that means you're showing a lot more lights on this side. But for me, and those of you that's painting Harley, your shadows are a lot on the right side of her body. Mhm. I do have a cast shadow down underneath her paw. That cast shadow is going to gradually fade from a number 8 right under her body, like so, and it fades out to lighter brown. This is going to give her the appearance that she's sitting on this carpet before I even add the texture of the carpet. I only got her frown line. First, I felt like Harley had a smile, but now as I finish adding a lot of detail, I can see her frown in her face, especially since I added these vertical lines in between her eyes, giving her that frown look. Shaping of her face now, this circle here. When I shape up her face, I'm putting these triangle lines of value 8 around her face, just exactly where I see it on the reference. And that's not painting this all willy-nilly. I'm actually looking at this reference here as I'm painting. So my eyes go painting, reference, over and over and over. And your eyes should be doing that too. You should not just be painting your pet without actually looking at where the shape sits, where the lines sit. Oops, that's too dark. Whoops, way too dark. I'll have to lighten it up in a minute. That's too light, too dark right there. There she goes. Saving all ones, twos, and threes right in the middle of Harley. Threes, fours, fives, six, seven, and eight goes around her edges because she's sitting in a bright light where the light is shining right on her in the middle of her face. If the light was shining over here on the left side, a lot of this here and area will be lighter values like in the middle, but they're not. So on your reference, you are paying attention to where that light source is hitting. Okay, if it's hitting in the middle, a lot of one to threes will be there in the middle. If it's not, you're finding that. Now I'm gonna switch over again to my smaller brush. I'm gonna go in and add in some numbers 5 through 8 in her eyes. And I like to do both eyes at the same time. The reason so is it helps me to stay proportionate. What I have on the left, she's symmetrical, sort of. What I have on the left, I should have on the right side. So this highlight here in her eyes is a value number 3 and 4. That's the lightest part of the eye. Everything else now goes a step darker. switch over to my smaller brush. Is this all making sense to everyone? Awesome. Absolutely. What is it? Okay. So bring me your reference and let's study those lines. Because the key will be you actually studying your reference so good that you are painting what you see. Let's let's look at it and study something. Okay. Is your value? What is your value chart? Can I see you? All right. Value chart. So if I look at this value chart and I went over to here, and I did here, and I did here, this the value looks like this and this. So this should be right there. Here, it transitions to about this over there. So that should be there. Right now, you have all of these values, and I don't really see that in here. So whatever's here should be here. You're welcome. A little bit of now black by itself is boundly surfacing. Boundly doing black by itself because I'm working in her eye. And her eyes have become the focal point. That means that it's going to be the darkest against the lightest. So the darkest is her eyes against the lightest, which is the highlight in her eyes. I mean, in her fur. And that's how you establish a focal point. You may go ahead, just pour it in there. Yes, ma'am. Values are extremely important to shaping a shadow and shaping the highlight. I see one person not painting. We're in painting class. Let's get busy. All right. Don't just stare at it. Paint it. Well, right now you should be at the point where you are putting all these values in. So it like right here in Harley's eyes is I see a darker value in her eye. So I'm putting that dark value exactly where it belongs. I'm not making it up. I'm just making sure I put everything in its place. And in reality, it's almost like paint by number. So on your reference, if you mark a V1 on your chart, you mark the V1 on the reference. If you mark V2, value 2, on the chart here, you find it on the reference and put V2 on the reference. So then on your painting is exactly where you have to paint V2, value 2, and V1, value 1. Y'all get it? Yeah. It's almost like painting by number, but it's not. typically, underpaintings are not extremely detailed like this. They are just a roadmap to adding color. But for you in this class, because a lot of you are beginning painting students, I need you to actually make it more detailed than what it should be. Just like that, by adding value 8 and 9, which is black by itself, and I can even put a 9 down here and put next to it V8, V9, excuse me, and I can make a note to myself that that's just black by itself. By adding just those details of value 9 in her eyes and her nose after I put all the other values, really pushes. Now, one thing a tip that I want to give you is never, ever, ever use black by itself early in your painting. Reason so, that black will get mixed with any of the other colors and totally muddy up your painting. That is why you saw me go from value 1 then to value 9. I didn't just start painting with darks everywhere, right? Especially when you're dealing with adding black into a painting. Sometimes we don't use black at all, especially with oil paints. This is an acrylic painting. So that is why you see that I'm mixing in a little bit of black. But with oil paints, I always make my own black. I do. Can anyone tell me what two colors will make a black with the oil paint? Just guess. Somebody tell me. Okay? Brown and what? Blue. Excellent. Yeah, you said blue. Okay. Yes, sir. You are correct. Your blue and your brown will all paint will make a black. And specifically a burnt umber brown and a ultramarine blue to be precise. Excellent job, sir. I don't know where the bag All right, let's head to lunch, then we'll come back. Soon as you get to your tools and come back, I'll show you where those tools are. All right? I'm gonna end the streaming now and then come back after.